Hello and welcome to the Strike a Balance podcast for Working Homeschool Moms. This is Charlotte Jones. I'm a homeschool coach and homeschooling mom of twin boys. I know it can feel really overwhelming to keep all the balls in the air all the time. So each week I chat about tips and strategies for being a happy and thriving working homeschool mom that you can implement in your life too. I also speak to awesome and inspiring women who manage to juggle homeschooling and work successfully and find out what their secrets are. Be sure to check out my time audit and mindset challenge in the show notes and sign up to my newsletter for lots of cool freebies. And if you ever need to chat, please book in a session with me. I'm so excited for you to be here and I hope you'll get so much value out of this episode. So let's get started. Are you looking for a new math curriculum? Well, I'm thrilled to introduce our favorite math curriculum to you. CTCMath specializes in providing online video tutorials that take a multi-sensory approach to learning. Favorably reviewed in Cathy Duffy's 102 Top Picks and the Old Schoolhouse Crew Review, the lessons are short and concise to help your children break down concepts and appreciate math in a whole new way. The lessons are taught the traditional way and not to a test. Each one of the video tutorials is taught by an internationally acclaimed teacher, Pat Murray, who is renowned for teaching math concepts in a simple, easy to understand way and in only a few minutes at a time. Using a multi-sensory approach means having the combination of effective graphics and animation synchronized with the voice of a friendly teacher together with a practical assessment. This three-pronged attack makes learning so much easier and more effective. Even students who struggled with math are getting fantastic results, and ones who were doing okay before are now doing brilliantly. Visit ctcmath.com today to start your free trial. CTC Maths is generously offering my listeners an amazing special. Go to www.ctcmath.com/MLH to get a half price discount plus a bonus 6 months for free. That's ctcmath.com/MLH. So today I'll be talking to Beth McCarter, who is a second-generation homeschooler and who writes at the Homeschool Graduate. She's also the creator of an inclusive and diverse free virtual homeschool summit, which is taking place in a few weeks, and I'm super excited to be one of the speakers. Welcome to the podcast, Beth. I'm really glad we're getting to talk again today.
Hi, Charlotte. I'm super excited to be here, and I was really just super thrilled to have an invite extended to me after I interviewed you. So, yeah, really excited.
Okay, so before we get started, I want to ask you a bit of a warm-up question. So if you were to write your autobiography today, what would be the title and why?
So the why, I'll give you the why first. I really enjoy funny autobiographies. Some of my favorites are Trevor Noah's and then Tina Fey's. So that was the route I took, and I've given this a little bit of thought, and it's very silly, but my autobiography would be called Two Aussies in a Trench Coat, and Aussies referring to the dogs, Australian Shepherds. And the reason being is because I've never met a more chaotic animal. My sister has an Australian Shepherd. That dog is like 3 cups of caffeine in every single day. And so the imagery of having two, one standing on top of the other in a trench coat, just attempting to go about their daily life, just really, it's kind of a metaphor for how I feel. I've have quite a bit of attention problems, quite a bit of like hyperactivity. And when I'm not in the perfect situation, like, for example, an Aussie in an apartment, I am not going to do my best. But if you put one of those dogs on a task that they're really designed to do, then, that's the dog that you want herding your animals. So I just like the imagery and I like the silliness. So Two Aussies in a Trench Coat would be my autobiography.
That has got to be the best answer I've ever heard. I love it. Yes. And I love them. They're very popular here in South Africa as well. They really are gorgeous.
They're so pretty. Dogs. They're so pretty, but they're at least my sister's is a sociopath. I mean, it's so funny and cute.
Yeah. They need a lot of exercise, that's for sure. Obviously, when they're used to running around fields, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. And maybe you could tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so like you said in the intro, I'm a second generation homeschool student. I'm really proud of that because it worked super well with my learning style as a kiddo and then as an adult as well. I really succeed with a lot of flexibility. So I homeschool my own two children. My husband and I both do. We're both certified teachers. That's what we did before we kind of redirected to homeschooling. Homeschooling wasn't always in the cards for us, but we're from the United States. We're in Texas. We're really worried about safety of our children. We were really overworked as teachers and underpaid. So we've shifted gears and now we are world schoolers and travel pretty much full time. And that's definitely our passion.
I think world schooling has got to be the coolest way to homeschool. What are some of like the best places you've visited? What is your favorite place you visited so far?
My favorite place in the world is hands down Homer and Seward in Alaska. It was actually our plan B. We were intending to go to Australia. We were super excited about it. Pandemic hits. And then we have these vouchers, and we're like, okay, we're stuck in the US. I want to go to the most adventure place we can go to. So we landed in Alaska. We weren't super psyched about it because it was plan B, and we fell in love. The best place for families if you get the chance to go. I think I cried multiple times there just from the sheer beauty of it. We saw baby orcas swimming with their mamas and learning how to like breach. We saw 9 mooses, moose eye, whatever those would be called. What else? Oh, we rode in a dog sled, and it was summertime, so it wasn't snowy. But oh my gosh, just incredible, incredible vacation.
What is that program that is based there? That one from like the 80s? Oh, I can't remember the
Uh,
name.
the Iditarod, the dog race. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, I can't remember now. Oh my gosh. Anyway, but it's also based there, and I just these beautiful big expanses of land. It must be so freeing, I think, to be there.
It was amazing,
Mm.
amazing.
So you said you kind of decided to quit working as a teacher. So how long have you been a working homeschool mom specifically?
Okay, so the journey's kind of staggered. I started. I took a break when my daughter was born. I had postpartum depression pretty significantly, so kind of took a break, had my kids, went back. The pandemic hit, so I left teaching in 2020 and started homeschooling. My daughter was in pre-K, but we still homeschooled. So I've been working part time and homeschooling officially since 2020.
I read in your about us on your website that you say your homeschooling is quite relaxed. So how would you say what does your schedule look like roughly? If you could say what would if you have a typical day, what would that look like?
Yeah, for sure. So because we travel full time, or that's what we're working towards, full time travel, we do quite a bit of unschooling when we reach a new destination. Our goal is to take advantage of what we're learning there. So unschooling, we would have a schedule like where we run errands together. My kids like to do all the ordering in the language. They were really good at ordering at the patisseries in France. Um, and then we come home. We do just a little bit of book work on the porch. My children are still very young. They're 6 and 3, so maximum 2 hours throughout the day of book work, and that's like spread in 20-25 minute increments. We read as much as we possibly can. I like to read during the day, but at night and before naps as well. So it's just kind of a back and forth between 20 minutes of sit down learning on the porch, if possible, and then play for the rest of the hour. And then we kind of go on that cycle throughout the day. And then we hit dinner, we prepare dinner together, and we wind down. And we probably spend too much time on technology. That's something that is a work in progress for us. But yeah, we're pretty happy with that very laid back homeschooling schedule.
And I think, especially when kids are young, I think so many new homeschoolers, when they start with their kids pre K or K, or obviously first grade, they really want to cram so much learning into a day where I think there's so much to be learned just from play and play and play, I think.
Yes. Yes. Um, So we spent about an hour playing Legos this morning, and it's summertime here in the U.S. and our family does dial it back in the summer. We do a lot of reading and some curriculum, but it's way dialed back. But that hour that I got to spend sitting on the floor with my kids playing Legos was is probably going to be the highlight of my day.
Oh, absolutely. Because sometimes I also find when you do spend a lot of time together, it's easy not to really connect, I think, because you're like, oh, we're spending a lot of time together.
Yeah,
But it's really good to have that very focused time when you are kind of really engaged with each other. I think it's really powerful.
for sure, because we have a lot of quantity, we have a lot of time together, but it's not always quality. It has to be more intentional.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then how do you stay organized generally?
So organization is definitely something I struggle with. I have got a digital calendar, I've got a paper calendar, and I write everything down. I wake up in the morning and I take my blood pressure. I write that down. I write what we've done today. I review my appointments. A new thing I just started doing within the last couple of weeks that has been a lifesaver for me is buying an Apple Watch and then having my calendar alerts on my wrist. I have been known to miss appointments, like sit down at my computer with the intention of attending this appointment in 10 minutes and then get into something interesting and then ghosting the person I had the appointment with. So I have to have those alerts on my wrist. That's definitely my biggest factor in staying organized.
Sure. And I think also, I suppose, just using the tools that are available really, really helps us to stay organized. And because I often find people maybe who struggle with that sometimes don't utilize what they can, but there are so many things I think to help, and it can really take away so much of the stress.
Yes, for sure. Timers are a big deal for me. If I am start a task that I know I will hyper focus into, Um, I'll set a timer, and sometimes my husband will set a timer to kind of hold me accountable because that's what I want. And then once that hits, all right, I've got to get off whatever I was doing because that's the time I wanted to spend on that item.
Sure, absolutely. My kids who are neurodiverse, timers work really, really well for them as well because it also kind of gives them a beginning and an end, which I think
Yes,
they enjoy the safety of that feeling.
yes, for sure.
And what is your absolute favorite homeschooling resource and why?
So my absolutely favorite thing to do as a homeschool parent is to outsource things that I'm not an expert in. So this does require, if you've got a little bit of extra room in your budget, which isn't always the case for us, but I try to budget for these things. I like to outsource to experts. So for our science, we use something called Doc Robbins School, and she's presenting at the summit as well. She's a general practitioner or a family practitioner, and she creates science curriculum. I am not like a science. I taught science for a year, but it was nothing compared to what she can offer. So paying for that subscription, definitely worth it. And then I also like to pick and choose classes on Outschool. Paper Theater International is one of my favorites. They tell multilingual stories. It's just a great thing for social studies for my kiddos. So if I had an endless budget, I would be outsourcing quite a bit more.
Absolutely. And I think it also really takes so much pressure off because when you start
Mm-hmm.
homeschooling as well, you feel like you need to be an expert. And I think people get overwhelmed by that. But there's so much out there now. And Outschool is amazing, though, isn't it? You can find anything you want on
Yes.
there.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff on there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And have there ever been times when you wanted to quit homeschooling or maybe being a working homeschool mom? And if there were, how did you get through them?
Yeah, so for example, last night I read a story to my daughter and it was about friendship, and my daughter cried, and I had some intense guilt about homeschooling her, and we're not in a co-op currently. And I was like, she's missing out on some of these opportunities. So I felt very, very guilty. And then I was thinking, how can I get her Can we enroll when we're in Mexico? Can she get friendships there? And then I returned to my values, and my values for homeschooling are keeping my children safe. It's not safe and where we are to send our kids to school. We taught in the area. We received multiple gun threats in a single year. So I returned to my values, and I think, yes, I feel guilty. I'm going to work to make homeschooling include what's important to her, but I'm not going to quit homeschooling just because of this momentary feeling of guilt, because my value is so strong, my values for homeschooling. So returning to those values really helped me.
Sure. And just remembering that why can really help in tough times so very much.
Yes,
Mm.
yes, for sure.
And what about if you have like a bad day, like nobody wants to learn or everybody's in a bad mood? How do you get through days like that?
For sure. First of all, I like to give everyone space. So I kind of let my kids pick what is it that you would like to do by yourself. And my daughter usually likes to come up and play dolls, and maybe she likes to listen to music and sing along to it. My son likes to play monster truck rallies, and then I give myself some space. After we're not so irritated with each other, I usually ditch whatever we're doing and I put on an ocean documentary. We're a bunch of nerds for ocean science. So we'll watch something on cephalopods. My octopus teacher is a really good one. And I'll make popcorn. We'll just kind of cozy up and watch that. And then we also like to play Legos or another, tactile thing we can play with our hands. And that kind of turns the day into a success. Whereas if we had plowed through with the curriculum, it would not have been.
Sure, absolutely. And I think how did you it's always interesting to speak to second generation homeschoolers, like how did your mom deal with that or your parents deal with that when you were homeschooled? Would they have done the same kind of thing?
Oh, for sure. So I think one of the reasons I was so successful as a homeschool student is because of the amount of choice I had in my
Mm.
day. I remember, and my mom was the same way. So she's obsessed with being outside and being in the garden. So there were some days where it's like I may have been ready to school, and she's like, I'm not missing this good weather day," and she would head out, and then could usually be found with a book, either laying on the floor of my room, up in the tree fort, on the hammock. And I just remember these really idyllic periods where I just would devour a book in a single day. And I don't regret that time spent. I don't think it would have been spent better looking at an algebra textbook. So I really do value that flexibility in homeschooling.
Absolutely. And I think obviously because you had such a positive experience with your homeschool that maybe going into homeschooling with your children, was it maybe like a little bit of an easier choice?
I think for sure. And now I remember hiccups as well. I was an atrocious middle schooler. Oh my gosh, I gave my mom so much flack for homeschooling. I wanted the social aspect, and I did spend a little time in public school and high school, so I am prepared for those feelings for my kiddos. And I'll do what my mom did and keep an open mind, and then decide together what's best for the kid.
Sure. I think just having an open mind in general is like super important for
Mhm.
homeschooling. Yeah.
Yes.
And that kind of brings me nicely to the next question. So, how important do you think mindset is for being a successful working homeschool mom?
Oh, mindset is everything for sure. You've got to feel like you're enough before you can do homeschooling, because I see people on Facebook all the time asking for reassurance. Even if they're not straight up asking, they're really asking for reassurance. So I feel like the mindset of being comfortable in your own abilities, thinking I am enough. I am completely enough to be a teacher for my children, no matter my educational background, no matter my own school experience. So that mindset that you are enough and that you're doing your very best. I honestly think before anything else can happen, you've got to come to terms with that.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. And I love it when people say that mindset is everything because it is so very important also just to be positive about the experience, even though obviously I know it can be tough at times, but just maybe even to kind of, when you find a really rough patch, to try and look at that as a learning opportunity, or to see maybe if you need to change something. I think also, like being open minded, I think also really helps so much with having a successful homeschool.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
And what does self care look like for you?
Self care. I really enjoy swimming. We're lucky enough to live near a lake when we're staying with my parents. So if I could stay in the water all day long, that would be great for me. Just really exhausting myself by swimming and then getting a really good night's sleep after that. I enjoy kayaking. I enjoy hiking when the weather is nice and cool. I do not like to be outside when it's miserably hot. And then at the end of the day, just like a lavender bath bomb in a really burning hot bathtub is how I like to end my day.
Oh yeah, lavender is such a good flavor. Not a good flavor, a good
Mm-hmm.
fragrance. Not a flavor, a fragrance. Yeah. And I love that photo of Mexico. So you've been to Mexico and you're going to Mexico again?
Yes. So when I hit like I don't remember how old I was, but it's been 3 or 4 years now. I started taking a solo trip once a year, and it's really important to me because my identity is so tied into being a mom and a partner. So the last trip, my solo trip in November, I went to Cabo, which is Baja California. Loved it. Oh my gosh, just incredibly gorgeous. And I speak Spanish and I really enjoy interacting in Spanish. So I think that's where we're headed this fall.
Oh, amazing. That's definitely, like I said, Mexico is definitely very firmly on my bucket list to visit. It seems like
Mm-hmm,
such a beautiful
for
place.
sure.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think back to when you started homeschooling, what do you think is the most important thing that you need when you start out?
Yeah, for sure. So I just kind of sound like a broken record, but taking care of your mental health. This aligns with your mindset. But if you have something, and I feel pretty strongly that everyone has something that they should process. For me, this summer has been finally pursuing help for ADHD, and it sounds kind of trivial, like oh, you're taking care of yourself like this. You're a homeschool mom. Shouldn't you be taking care of your kids? Well, I argue that taking care of myself is taking care of my kids. If I don't if I don't feel my best, if I'm not taking care of some of these symptoms that I struggle with, my whole family struggles. So I think as a new homeschool parent, we're so good about helping our kids. We're like, oh gosh, my kid, I think they have dysgraphia or dyslexia, or I think they have ADHD, or they might be autistic. Um, well, maybe look a little deeper and think, am I struggling with these things as well? Because your adult children will thank you for taking care of your baggage. I know if there's something I could wish for, it would be that my parents would go to counseling. And not because anything's wrong with them, but we all have things we can process, and it really benefits the family when you own that and you pursue taking care of that.
Sure. And I think it's incredibly brave as well to do it as an adult, though, because I think
Yes.
I mean, obviously, when you're an adult, you're often set in your ways. So I
Hmm.
think opening yourself up can be quite frightening, I think.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, and I think I hope that people are kind of ditching the stigma and
Mm.
pursuing that because it will just benefit generations
Oh,
from now
absolutely.
on.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And what is your number one piece of advice for being a happy and thriving working homeschool mom specifically?
Well, this is not something that I have achieved, but giving yourself grace to make mistakes, and you're juggling so much. You're juggling a colossal amount of work. Your work, raising your kids, educating your kids. So just giving yourself quite a bit of grace, as I said, because we're so hard on ourselves. I'm so hard on myself. At the end of the day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really screwed today up. And then I think when I say that to my sister, Would I say that to my mom, or would I say that to a friend? No, I wouldn't. So, being kind to yourself and realizing what a heroic thing you're doing by working and homeschooling and raising kids in today's climate when we're so stressed out and everything's changing and everything costs more. So, just being kind to yourself.
Yes, I love that. I think that's so, so important. And then finally, is there anything you're working on that you would like to share, and where can people find you online?
For sure. So you mentioned it in the beginning, but we've got a homeschool summit coming up. I am so excited about it. I love the session that we did together. And that's free to register. It's the homeschoolgraduate.com/register. If you're listening before July 21st, you've still got time to enroll. If you're listening afterwards, you'll just want to submit your info so that you get the first notification for next year's summit. And I'm really, really excited about it. There's some super cool conversations in there.
Absolutely, yes. There are some fantastic speakers. I'm really, really looking forward to listening to them.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. It's been really, really lovely to chat to you again today. And thank you so much for your time and sharing your advice and sharing your experiences with being a working homeschool mom.
Well, thank you so much, Charlotte, for having me. It was really nice to talk to you again.
I really hope you enjoyed the episode. Drop me a DM on Instagram or post on the Working Homeschool Mom support group over on Facebook. And let me know what resonated the most with you. It would also be great if you could rate, review, and subscribe, or share the podcast with a working homeschool mom who might need it. It's my mission to support as many working homeschool moms as possible. Until next time, take care. Hello and welcome to the Strike a Balance podcast for working homeschool moms. This is Charlotte Jones. I'm a homeschool coach and homeschooling mom of twin boys. I know it can feel really overwhelming to keep all the balls in the air all the time. So each week I chat about tips and strategies for being a happy and thriving working homeschool mom that you can implement in your life too. I also speak to awesome and inspiring women who manage to